Still with that topic of eSwatini now, we discussed that further, and we're joined on the line by journalist and editor of the Swaziland News, Zweli Dlamini. Zweli, welcome to Rise and Shine, and thanks for your time.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
We chatted quite intensively with Boniso Mkabela. I don't know if you heard that previous conversation, but how would you describe the relations between the state and the political formations prior to the 1983 formation of the People's United Democratic Movement that he did touch on?
I thank you for your question. And you will understand that eSwatini is an absolute monarchy since 1973. And the People's United Democratic Movement was established in 1983. At the time, the country was ruled through the King's Proclamation, which banned the existence of political parties. So the relationship between the monarchy and the Podemo has been hostile since then. And there has been a crackdown on pro-democracy activists, and there's been the killing of human rights defenders and political activists as a result of the suppression of dissenting voices in Eswatini.
What is the mood like in the country? We heard from Usboniso there that it's not that so much more a fearful one as much as they've been oppressed, but one where they want to continue fighting. They are not, I think the words he used, are not deterred. What is the mood in the country like? What does it mean for in terms of the significance of April 12th, the Global Day of Action?
Yes, as I've just mentioned, the 1973 decree that was enacted by the then King Sopoza II, the father of the current king, King Mswati III, banned the existence of political parties. And the Podemo has been consistent in fighting for democratic reforms in Eswatini. In fact, Podemo is the largest and leading political party or liberation movement in Eswatini. And despite the persecution and all the hostilities within the kingdom, Podemo has survived all the persecution in Eswatini, and they've been pushing until this far. But the situation is to remain hostile. Political activists are arrested or even killed. And as you have just heard some of the stories coming from the kingdom regarding the arrest, torture, and the killing of political activists in Eswatini.
How do you think this can be justified by the monarchy in terms of calls for a democratic system where we are hearing of reports of the Swaziland Royal Police even going as far as having or making abductions? How can one justify these kinds of actions?
The Royal Eswatini Police has been doing all this in terms of what is known as the Public Order Act, and of course the 1973 that is still in 1973 decree that is still in existence despite the enactment of the Constitution of Eswatini that came into existence in 2005. So in Eswatini, what you need to understand in the political context is the fact that the police are normally unleashed to suppress dissenting voices. And in the last few days, we've seen the abduction of political activists subsequent to the Podemo Youth League elective Congress that was held in the neighboring South Africa. And even that, in Eswatini, those with different political views are not allowed to hold meetings. They are normally abducted whenever they plan meetings to discuss issues affecting their political welfare. They are normally abducted prior to those meetings. So that's the situation in the Kingdom of Eswatini.
If political activists are oppressed, they are being arrested, some even abducted, what does that mean for you, the journalists in the country?
Being an independent journalist in Eswatini is dangerous and comes with a huge risk. But of course, that does not mean we will stop practicing journalism, because journalism is about informing the people regarding issues affecting their welfare. But even myself, I've been a victim of torture and abduction by the Royal eSwatini police, merely for interviewing and sometimes criticizing the monarchy. In Eswatini, once you interview those who are critical of the current regime, you are then perceived as being part of them, and you are then targeted as a journalist. So it's a hostile environment even towards the independence of the media.
And it's the last of its kind, Eswatini, to be under absolute monarchy in terms of Africa. Where do you see the future?
Thank you for that question. It cannot be sustained because there are some global or international laws that promote democracy, and Eswatini has been on the spotlight due to its oppressive laws. There are over or maybe close to 50 oppressive laws in Eswatini that undermines the independence of the media, that undermines freedom of expression, and of course they are not consistent with the provisions of the Constitution. And even the Constitution itself is just a duplication of the 1973 decree, because despite the inclusion of the freedom of expression, the freedom of association, the situation on the ground suggests that people are not allowed to assemble, people are not allowed to express themselves, and the media is not allowed to be independent and report regarding issues on the ground and holding those in power accountable. So the monarchy won't be sustainable because it won't sustain itself under the current situation, because it's currently on the global spotlight, particularly with regards to the 1973 decree that is still in existence even today.
Well, thanks for your time, Zweli, and for the energy of the Eswatini people to want to continue fighting for democracy, but also, more than anything, to have the return of good governance, to have the return of, humanitarian aid, being able to come in, political activists being able to be given free speech, to have peace and order. But thanks for your time, Zweli.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.